Hey guys. Oh, hell, mate. Whoa, whoa. Not joking. Hey guys, I'm Tom Straker and I'm at Gozney HQ, and today I'm going to show you how to make a pizza calabrese. First of all, we're going to make the dough. It's just flour, water, yeast and salt. But there's a few processes which we need to do to make sure we're getting a really good dough at the end of it. The first stage is the auto-least, which is loosely mixing flour and water to make a rough dough, and then we just leave that. And what happens is the water fully hydrates the flour over the course of like 1 to 2 hours, and you'll see how the dough becomes really nice and elastic afterwards, and that's a fully hydrated dough. It's already getting the gluten working naturally. Just put the flour in the bowl, and then all we'll do is go in with the water. So you can either go in with the dough scraper or go in straight with your hands. Mix it gently. The time is going to do the work for us. Working smart, not hard, which is what I've always tried to do. So just make sure all that flour is hydrated. You've not got any dry spots in the bottom of the bowl, but you don't want to be overworking it. Cover the dough with a little bit of cling film, and we're going to leave that room temperature 2 hours. Okay, so 2 hours later, what I can see already is it's completely smoothed out. The flour's hydrated, and you can see when you pull it up, it's really stretchy already. You can see that's the gluten developed, and we haven't even kneaded it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna spread it out, and we're just gonna get the yeast in there. So I didn't put the yeast in at the beginning is because you don't want to ferment the pizza dough to get too much air inside initially. You can use fresh yeast. If you use fresh yeast, you probably just got to dissolve it in a little bit of water first. And then we'll just wrap that, and we can start kneading. Disperse the yeast properly in it for it to hydrate inside the dough, pushing it away and breaking those gluten strands. We don't need to knead it for hours, this. 3 to 4 minutes to start with, and then add the salt. Just sprinkle that over the dough, and then we're gonna do the same as we did to the yeast. We're gonna wrap that up another few minutes just to get the salt dispersed. So it's just a case of pushing away and rolling back. It's nice to do some things by hand. I just feel like bread is one of those things which, you know, you can really feel the change in the dough. Yeah, just keep your board nice and clean, scraping it off. The dough's pretty much there now. And what we're gonna do is now we're gonna leave it for 2 hours before we ball it. But in those 2 hours, every 30 minutes, we're gonna do a stretch and fold. And I'll show you how to do that now. Always when you're proving breads and stuff, plastic tub is your best friend. Keeps it at the right temperature, a little thin coating of oil. And with the dough, we'll just lift that up. All the stretch and fold is, lift from one end, fold it over, lift from the other end, fold it over, turn it round, do the same from the other two sides, and then secure the fold just by turning it over one time. That doesn't count as a fold, that's just, we're just putting it in the bucket, and we're gonna do that 3 more times at 30 minutes, 1 hour, and 90 minutes. The dough has proved nicely. This recipe, 500 grams of flour makes 4 200-gram dough balls. Okay, so you just divide that into 4, basically. You can weigh it out. We're gonna ball the dough, so just in your hand, all you need to do, almost like you've got a cup motion in your hand, is just ball it up. Lightly flour your dough tray. You ideally wanna leave it for a couple of days. I mean, obviously you can use it same day if you want, or next day. Minimum amount of time is probably about, 4 to 8 hours. And once you got all the dough balled up, you just want to make sure it's sealed properly. So lid on. And that goes straight in the fridge, 2 days. Topping the pizza. We're gonna go tomato base. These are San Mazzanos. Whole peeled plum tomatoes, they're the ones you want to go for. We're just going to use our hand to crush them. What you don't want to do, you don't want to blend them. You can pass them through a really fine sieve, and that way you'll get the beautiful sauce, and you won't have any of these sort of tomatoey strands, which I actually quite like, to be honest. Taste the product you're working with first, and then you know how you're changing that product, because it's impossible to know where you want it if you don't know where it started. 2 things that need real salting is tomatoes and avocados. Touch of olive oil, and then I like to go in with a few cloves of peeled and thinly sliced garlic. Then obviously you tasted it at the beginning, so taste it. Good and salty. Tomato base is done. Mozzarella just needs dicing, more of like a rectangle like that. This is a low moisture, like commercial pizza mozzarella. It's great for like the cheese melts and it doesn't leave any liquid on your pizza. Okay, so we'll just pick the basil. That's here, that's all we're doing is we'll take off a few leaves. We'll just have those ready. Nduja, this is a speciality of the Calabrian region. Spicy Calabrian sausage. So it's got chilies in there. It's got lots of cured pork. A bit bigger than the mozzarella dice because we're just gonna put a few of those on there. And this is just gonna melt down and give the pizza a lovely sort of smoky, spicy element. Now it's just a case of making the pizza. I think we got everything ready. Roccbox is hot, Roccbox is up. We can leave it on full whack. Pizza dough. Been sat in the fridge for ideally 2 days. Become nice and loose. And that's what's gonna help us easily stretch the dough. You wanna keep this covered at all times, especially if you're outside. Okay, because otherwise you'll get a skin over the top of the dough and it'll be almost impossible to stretch it without losing that structure that we've got. Give it a good flour on top. So dough up, out, and we've gone upside down on the board, but we've got to remember to flip that over because you always want to bake the pizza upside up. Pushing around the outside, we're creating that crust. Lift that dough onto the back of your hand. It's almost the weight is stretching it. You're not doing too much stretch. Oh. I personally like to dress on the paddle. One final stretch, nice round on the paddle there. Start off tomato base. You don't want too much on here. Then you can just sort of go in mozzarella randomly, and then as well with the Nduja. And then the pancetta, sort of layer that all over. It's so thin, it'll go crispy. It's good to have every slice with a good bit of pancetta on it. A few basil leaves, olive oil. Finish with some freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano. Then it's just a case of smashing it in the oven. Okay, so we're just gonna go straight in. And you don't want to go too close to the back of the oven. As soon as it sets, you can start turning. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the edges to puff up, the leopard spots on the outside of the pizza. That's a pizza. Generous grating of Parmesan. And that's it, that's my Pizza Calabrese. So that's gonna be sweet, smoky, salty, tasty. It's Gozney. It's tasty business. So it's all about taking the time, making the dough properly, following those steps, long auto-lease, picking the toppings you love, getting the Gozney to the right temperature, and just tuck in. Pizza Calabrese. Oh. Fire hot. Lovely tomatoes, smoky pancetta, Parmesan, it's delicious. Head over to gozney.com. You guys should try it.
Add salt to it?
Yeah, no, we're gonna add salt. Hang about, Rich.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
They're crushing the tomatoes here, mate.